So, as promised, today is the Thursday vibe, and we are going to be talking about digital content creation. so, we had a three-part series that we had going on, right? The first part was, how to make $10,000 using digital products, and we talked about building courses. The second thing was we talked about building digital products as a whole. And today, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about digital content creation. And when we talk about content creation, what we're really talking about is all of the things that we've already discussed, right? But it's really making certain that you're using the right medium to communicate with your target audience, right? And it's essentially so that you are building loyal customers. So just like we mentioned in the digital product video, and just like we mentioned in the course creation video, right? You want to make sure that you have your content, whether it's ebooks, whether it's a blog, whether it's a newsletter, podcast, music, video games, apps, software, social media, right? And that's what we're going to be today, talking really about your social media, your posts, your comments, your messaging, even including your website, any kind of ads that you're running, landing pages, all of that, right? And the question may be, well, why is digital content creation so important? When we're looking at how people are building their brand. A lot of the brands are being built on personal recognition, right? On personal type status. It's not from large corporations. You're not hearing a lot of people talking about their business, even though their business may be established. So when we're looking at digital content creation or content marketing as a whole, what we're really talking about is building relationship with your potential customers before they even decide to buy with you, right? You want them to have you at the top of their mind when they are ready to purchase. So, in order to do that, you are constantly thinking about helpful content creation consistently, right? And this is stuff that your audiences can depend on. It's a reliable source of information, and you are behind all of that, right? Now, once you build that trust in your brand, and that's essentially what we want to do, right? We want to convince them to buy your product. We want to convince them that it's going to be easy to work with you and to deal with you, right? You're really trying to decrease that sales cycle and that associated cost with marketing. So, what we are talking about today is really making certain that your content creation is generating the audience engagement that you would like. And essentially, that is going to help you push out those courses, push out those digital products, push out some other things that we're going to talk about in terms of content creators later in this particular broadcast, right? So your goal is always to be attracting a new audience, if you will. And in order to do that, we have to have a couple of things that we have already kind of talked about and discussed consistently in this on this channel, but you have to be able to define your audience, right? And you do this through market research, you do this through brainstorming. You have to be able to create your content that is written well and that is visually stunning to your audience, okay? And then you have to be able to publish it. Where are you going to publish it? Are you publishing on your website, your blog, your social media posts? Are you using your email list, right? And then you want to make sure that you're optimizing your content, right? And this is what is going to be the best content for whatever platform that you are currently engaged on or in. Now, I keep saying platform, but I don't want to forget about the fact that we're talking about blog posts if you're still blogging. We're talking about newsletters. We're talking about podcasts. We're talking about videos, instant infographics, all of those things, right? Maybe even sometime brochures, right? So any kind of content that you are creating to essentially interact or engage with your customer or your audience, this is what we're talking about. Now, some of the things that we want to kind of keep in mind whenever we are creating any content is that we always want to make certain that it's definitely high quality, right? You want to make certain that you have some kind of a calendar that you're using to essentially ensure that your posts are coming out in a timely and reliable cycle, because consistency is really going to be the key. You can also start off by building a large content library and then just kind of dipping in there and using that content as you need it. Of course, again, we always want to make sure that we're using the best content for the appropriate platform that you are going to be using, right? So even though we are living in a for sure digital world, right, we want to kind of make certain that we understand that nothing's going to stay the same for very long, especially since we are living in an age where things change very, very quickly. So you can plan out your posts, you can plan out your strategy, but just kind of remember you want to be a little bit flexible, right? You want to kind of be able to adapt and adjust as necessary. So what do content creators do, right? When we're talking about content creators, we're really talking about you creating identity that is related to your brand. All right. Content creators, they encapsulate a couple of different aspects, right? They're copywriters, they're designers, they're producers, right? They're all of these things in one, because you're essentially creating this content so that it is connecting with your audience. So in order to be able to do that, most content creators can hire copywriters right away, and they can hire production crews right away. So you end up being those particular aspects inside of your business. So as a content creator, you want to make certain that you understand what kind of content works best for whatever platform that you're using. And what we mean by that is just kind of making certain that you're doing the research, right? You're doing the research to kind of see, well, what does the brand awareness cycle kind of look like on this particular platform? So we talk about this, and we're really saying you want to kind of make certain that you are evaluating a brand from the bottom or from the top to the bottom, right? So that's every aspect of your brand. You want to make certain that your tone is consistent. You want to make certain that your design is recognizable, that your styles and your strengths and your weaknesses are identified, so that you can basically, duplicate your strengths and reduce your weaknesses, right? Because all of that is going to be part of really kind of creating a strategy that is going to work best for you. Now, I don't want to talk about a lot about all of the little bitty things that definitely need to be taking place and need to be done in the actual content creation arena, but I do want to kind of just mention a few things that we want to definitely touch on in this particular video. So one of the things is that we want to kind of make certain that we have some kind of project management. And what I mean by that is we want to manage each of our products or digital content products in a way that really capture your particular skill set. We have various talents and various gifts, if you will, that each of us have. And so you want to kind of be on your own project manager. You want to make certain that you understand the schedule. You want to make certain that you understand the cost and all of the little bitty work breakdown structure that is involved in creating and, of course, producing that particular piece of content. You want to make certain that you have some understanding of copywriting, right? And copywriting, essentially, how am I going to get the words that I need to help my audience engage with my content? And you probably see it all the time. If you've ever signed up for a newsletter or any other kind of event, whether free or paid, you've gotten copy material, meaning that someone has sent you something to say, hey, look, I know you signed up for this, but we got a whole lot of other things that you may also be interested in. Videography, right? Videography is one of those things, especially here on YouTube, that it's a lot to learn, but you want to go ahead and just take little steps at a time. Do what you're comfortable with and learn the rest, right? Do what you're able to do, and then you are going to just kind of build on that knowledge and learn the rest. SEO, this is one of those things where we talk about search engine optimization. And, if you could really figure out the search engine, it'll be a really great thing for you. You want to just kind of make sure that you are checking out some of those free tools for understanding how to kind of write your content so that it can get picked up by those search engines, right? And if you feel like that's something that you're not able to do right away, then definitely make sure that you're tapping into those people who have a little bit more expertise in that area. And then, of course, you want to be able to promote your content, right? And promoting your content is probably going to be one of the things that it's going to help propel your potential content into the atmosphere of your audience. And so you want to basically put your content everywhere. Everywhere you show up, you want to make sure that you're saying, hey, look, go check out my content here. and um even in some of the places where you may not show up frequently, right? If you have friends who have social media accounts and you want to kind of go hang out with them for a few days and just kind of talk about what it is that you got going on over in your social media pages or in your social media world, then definitely do that, right? You just want to make sure that you are out there and you are constantly talking about what it is that you have going on. We know that our social media platforms consist of TikToks, it consists of the YouTubes, the Instagrams, right? But in conjunction with that, you want the imagery, you want the audio content, you want the written work, you want all of it. You don't want to just focus on just one thing. Now, in our world, we have what we call influencers. And content creators and influencers, they look really similar, right? They look like they could be very similar. And I'm going to give you a couple of differences between what is a content creator and what is an influencer. And you may already know this, but for those of us who really want to kind of have a good, clear divide between the two, I'm going to tell you what it is. So when we're looking at an influencer, right? An influencer and a content creator, they are going to have some very similar characteristics. But before I talk about that, I'm going to just kind of mention some of the things that are important for content creators, because there are people who is out there who are looking for people to produce content for them, from organizations to corporations to small business to individuals, right? Everybody want to have some kind of an online presence, but not everyone have the ability or the time to spend creating content. So when we're looking at content creators, you want to really kind of go back to what I mentioned earlier about being able to be a project manager. Because if you're working for someone else or working with someone else, you want to be able to have a strategy for how their content is going to be laid out and a creation plan for that. Businesses aren't the only entities, right? Like I mentioned earlier, that's looking for strategic content. A lot of individuals, right, use it to boost their personal brand, which I mentioned earlier was one of the more visible ways in which people kind of get out and connect with other members of their audience, is that they are first presented as a person and then that personal brand begins to be developed. So those individuals are also out there looking for content creators. And where can content creators find opportunities? Well, you want to find opportunities in a wide variety of location, right? First off, you want to create your own opportunity, and you can create your own opportunity by being a freelance content creator. Now, some of the things that this entails is essentially you're going to generate content for other individuals, right? Whether it's corporations, small business, or individuals themselves. Some of the pros with this is that it does offer you a lot of flexibility. And of course, a variety of content that can be created, and you get to set your own price. Now, some of the things that we are very, concerned about in regards to being a freelance content creator is that nothing is guaranteed. There is no employment benefits, and nothing is there as a safety net. You are gambling on your ability to really kind of create that new revenue stream. So that's one of the things. You also have the opportunity to possibly look for a job in-house in some business or other organization, right, that deals with content or digital marketing. Now, some of the things with that is that you're going to have a team that you're probably going to be working with, but you're going to reduce the flexibility that you have as a freelancer, right? And you probably are going to have less opportunity to be as creative. Agencies, of course, some of the same things, right? So you're just looking to see where and how do I want to fit into the content creation, into the content creation world. One of the things that I wanted to just kind of mention is that, this is an industry that is growing by leaps and bounds because there are a lot of people who is trying to build their personal brand, and there are a lot of organizations and businesses that would like to have a greater presence on the internet, but they don't have the time to do it. So having someone who can go in and kind of create that content for them is super, super valuable. Okay, super valuable. So what is the difference? I mentioned this earlier about what's the difference between a content creator and an influencer. An influencer is commonly known as an individual that influences, engage, usually have a large following, anywhere between 1,000 people or more on social media, right? And they normally, come to some type of popularity because their creation of their content went viral, right? And so that caused this huge uptick of individuals who was engaging with their content, and of course they began to follow them, and their following went up. When we're looking at influencers, influencers are absolutely a type of creator, but not all creators are influencers. And I'll say that again. An influencer is a type of creator, but not all creators are influencers. Okay. Um, Creators have many subcategories, if you will, and that could include things as as widely known as celebrities, right? They're in athletes and bloggers and podcasters, like those kind of things. Usually are detailed for influencers, right? Because they have this huge wide following, and they're popular and they're known, but they also create content. When we're looking at some of the similarities, right? But they also are creators at the same time. When we're looking at some of the similarities, what we're really seeing is that both content creators and influencers leverage. Hold on one. So I want to go ahead and just talk about some of the similarities, since that's where we stopped a moment ago. So some of the things that they have in common is, of course, they both are using or leveraging digital content to engage with their communities. They both have like really great skills on leading those social media platforms, meaning that, they're very well known and they are connected with their personal brand through that platform. And some of the other things is that, they're able to resonate with their audience, and therefore their content is considered as authentic, right? And successful, right? But then there are some things that are different between the content creator and the influencer. And the things that's mostly different is that the goals of each one is a little bit different, right? The value and the lifestyle that you see is maybe different as well. But what we want to see when we're looking at the content creator portion is that we want to really kind of see that maybe we're leveraging expertise based on particular skill sets, right? So you may see someone who gets really well known because they are an amazing realtor, and so they give you really great advice on how to navigate in the real estate marketplace. um, the content is generally diversified because even though that they are great marketers or they're great in the real estate marketplace, they may have other things that are also related to it, right? And then, of course, they know how to reach audiences. They know how to reach new audiences. And then, of course, for content creators, there normally are fewer followers, right? But not less important. When we're looking at, the diversification of the marketplace or the content, what we're really kind of talking about there is that they understand how to, use branded social media accounts. So you may find that there are some content creators that have multiple accounts, whereas if you are an influencer, you usually have a main account, and then you may have some sub accounts, but you really are trying to drive people to that one particular area. In either case, right, our goal always when we're looking at any of our content, and especially for content creation, is always to reach new audience, right? We're talking more so in this video about content creators, even though influencers may be creators of content. We're not really focusing on that. So how do we reach new audience in order to kind of grow our our platform, if you will, and to introduce our personal brand to more individuals, thus creating that $10,000 revenue that we mentioned at the very beginning of this video? So you need to think about, where is your audience hanging out? And in this particular day and age, I mean, it's very difficult to tell. You may have people who are on Facebook hanging out over on TikTok, right? You may have people who are on Instagram hanging out over on X. So you really kind of have to gauge how your content is being interacted with to kind of see where and how to utilize those platforms, right? Another thing is, how old are you, right? Like I mentioned earlier, when we're talking about Facebook, we're really kind of talking about more mature, more established type audiences. And when we're talking about TikTok, we have a wide range of individuals who utilize that platform. So you could probably have a little bit of luck, regardless of your age, over on TikTok, because TikTok demographic is so wide. Now, in the early stage of TikTok, it was very clear that it was for the younger demographic. But as time has gone on, right, we've started to see that that demographics has changed, and it's now looking like a multi demographic type environment. And then, of course, you have to think about what is your interest in terms of how are you connecting with your audience, and what is your audience interest, right? Even if you have a very low follower count, do not worry, right? You are a content creator. Your content will begin to resonate with those individuals who is looking for that information. Okay. So when we're looking at reaching our audience, we want to kind of make sure that we stay true to a couple of things. And that is that we're providing authentic content, useful content, and that is consistent. Okay. Authentic, useful, and consistent content helps drive you and your target audience together. Now, there is still that responsibility that you have for understanding who is your shopper. And we have a training that is coming up in regards to how to build your shopper's persona. And it's really going to be a workshop. So you're going to see it probably taking place in multiple videos. I don't like to really do very long videos. So you'll find that on my channel, my videos are anywhere between 15 to 35 minutes. And I feel like that's sufficient enough time to get everything out and to kind of help you get started. And then you can kind of come back and look at it again for more information. Now, saying that, I want to go ahead and ask you to please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Definitely make certain you like the video, and definitely share this with some of your friends, okay, and so forth. Now, some statistics in regards to content creators. The creator economy is currently worth over $100 billion and is set to double by 2027. So in 2 years, that's $200 billion. There are over 200 million content creators worldwide, with more than 120 million amateurs being created. Hello. Okay, so that means there's room for you. The largest group of creators is like 10.4 million, and those are what we call micro influencers, which are individuals who have less than 10,000 followers, like myself, right? And then, of course, people who spend more than 17 hours per week consuming digital content on social media, um, reflect nearly 50% increase from 2013. So when we're looking at how fast and how quickly content creation is growing, because there are so many people who are spending so much time on social media, there's room for everyone, right? Everyone. And this is according to printify.com. That's where this information is coming from. So content creator can use a variety of methods to monetize their work. And I know this is the part that you've been waiting for. I'm going to tell you 12 strategies that you can use. Now, we've already talked about two of them, and we're going to talk about a third one here in just a minute. But I'm going to give you all 12 right now. So the first thing is ad revenue. Now, YouTube and Facebook, they will pay creators. However, you have to meet certain criteria. And, which is, just like with most cases, when you're working somewhere, you have to kind of do some work before you start earning the benefits of it. So YouTube and Facebook, definitely want to check those two out. Affiliate marketing, I'm just going to leave that where it's at. Affiliate marketing, right? And this is basically where you promote products or services that are popular or well known, and you earn a commission. Okay. And some of the other things, sponsorships and brand deals, where you basically are posting information for businesses, companies, or individuals. Selling merchandise, right? Creators sell branded material like t-shirts, hats, mugs, anything, sunglasses, whatever. um, Donations. So there are some platforms that creators create content and their audience pay for that content, like Patreon, right? It's one for instance. So even YouTube will allow for that to kind of take place as well once you meet certain criteria. And then of course subscriptions, right? Subscriptions are really good. This is where you are offering paid membership for exclusive or ad-free type content. And you would then again have particular platforms like Patreon and so forth that you kind of gather your audience together in one place, and then they're able to connect with you one-on-one with that content. Selling digital products, which is something that we talked about in the previous video. And digital products include things like ebooks, of course, courses, anything that you create from a digital standpoint and you are then selling it to the public. Online courses and consulting, absolutely. We already kind of talked about that. And then, of course, platform creator funds, platforms like TikTok and YouTube offer funds to creator based on content performance and metrics. So again, you can get paid for your content on certain social media platforms. Licensing content, right? So listen, creator licensing their work. This is where you will have videos and photos, and you would allow the business or the individual to utilize it in maybe their campaigns, right? But you still retain the ownership right. So that means that you get to allow someone else to use it a little bit later. So we would find a lot of that on commercials, right? Where we have like songs from the 90s or earlier that you hear in the commercial, like, oh my God, they playing this in the commercial. Well, they have licensing rights for that particular music, but they don't own it, right? They own it for just that portion, or they license it for that particular reason, and then afterwards the ownership is still retained by the individual, corporation that has it. Speaking engagement. So content creators can, when you establish your brand, you can become, known as a speaker in the industry, right? For events or conferences, those types of things. Whatever niche that you're in, you can become known and get paid to actually speak at those events for that purpose. And then, of course, direct advertising. So, like for instance, if I were to say, hey, if you want to advertise during one of my lives, then just we'll create a banner or something like that, and we'll put it up, or we'll have a segment where we'll kind of talk about your product. And so those are 12 ways that you can actually create your $10,000, right? Earn $10,000 while dealing with content creation. I want to do a deep dive into licensing your content. So when we talk about licensing your content, right, we're talking about you allowing someone to use your content for their particular brand, like I mentioned earlier, for advertisements and those types of things. I also mentioned in one of the videos, I think it was the last one dealing with the digital product, how I've seen individuals who, as you can see, I have my Mardi Gras T-shirt on right now in New Orleans that goes around and takes photos during certain events throughout the year, and as well as at certain locations in the cities that's well known, and then they sell those photos, right? And so these are some of the things that you could do, or you could even license those photos. So some of the licensing that kind of is familiar, and this is with most intellectual property, is those creative common licenses, right? And these are licenses that allow the creator to specify what the terms of use for their work is, which is a really good idea, especially if you are dealing with maybe a very large a business or someone else. You want to kind of make sure that you have a say in what your material is being used for. And then they have another type that's called right managed license. And with the right managed license, it's granted for specific usage rights, right? So for a particular platform or for a particular duration, right? These are generally most cost efficient for because they are very limited in what the individual can use them for, right? And then, of course, you have exclusive versus non exclusive license, you have revenue sharing license, you have platform specific license, right? Where you are saying this particular piece of content can only be used on X social media platform, okay? And that's good, especially if you have where you're using maybe the content between various entities, and therefore you're saying, okay, you're going to use this on X and you're going to use this on some other platform and so forth, right? And then, of course, limited license restrictions, the number of uses or times frames limited. Those are going to be another really a really great way to kind of make sure that you retain some control over it. Um, some of the things that you want to consider whenever you're licensing your materials, you want to remember, who is going to own it, right? And you want to kind of make sure that you're always retaining full ownership of it, and that you're giving a particular time frame for when and how that particular content is being used. Also, usage scope and any kind of adaptation rights, right? You don't want it to be something that you find it's been edited so far removed from what your intent was that it's no longer representative of what you had created. And then, of course, any kind of exclusivity and fees that are involved. You want to go ahead and kind of negotiate that. Those are going to be for the premium, where someone says you cannot relicense this particular material. Essentially, that goes into ownership. So you want to kind of be very wary of that. Always check with any kind of IP lawyer to kind of just discuss what is going to be the best approach for your particular intellectual property licensing. This was just an overview and a very quick overview of the types that are available to you. Let's talk about private label rights. Now, this was something that I wanted to kind of mention to you, and this is really dealing with any kind of product that you are creating where you are going to allow someone basically to have the right to kind of modify it, edit it, and customize it for their use. Okay. Um, this type of licensing is usually given to individuals, is usually given to businesses, right? And they purchase this, and it's basically pre-created content. It could be ebooks, it could be articles, it could be videos, software, digital products, whatever it is. Okay. One of the key features with PLR, which is private label rights, is that the buyer gains significant flexibility in terms of how they use the content. And this is generally without needing to recognize who the original creator was. Okay. So PLR licensing, if this is something that you feel will be beneficial to your content creation, then you definitely want to kind of find out a little bit more about it, right? So some of the features of private label rights, which we see a lot of people do. We see them do this with particular nutritional brands. We see them do this with eyeglasses. Like there is a lot of PLR going on in the business with people putting their face on this product, but they're not really, creating it from scratch. So you could be the face behind the brand, okay? But some of the things that you want to kind of remember is that they do have modification rights. There is a rebranding that is allowed, redistribution right, and there's no attributes required. So once you sell them, this content is theirs to do with as they please. Now there are some limitations, right? There's the basic PLR, which allows for modification and personal use, but typically prohibits any kind of reselling or redistribution as a PLR. And then of course there's the resale PLR, which permits the buyer to modify and resell the content to others without any kind of engagement from you in regards to how they resell it, right? So think about it again. If you have ebooks or courses or anything out there that you feel will be a perfect fit for PLR, this is a great way to make a lot of extra money, because there are a lot of people who probably are in the same market that you're in, but don't have time to really create these large pieces of content. And if you can create it for them where they can just go in and modify it and adjust it, just for their particular use and to identify with their brand, gold, a gold mine. Okay. Look, I'm so happy that you decided to hang out with me. I know this is a little bit longer than my usual videos, but I wanted to really kind of make sure that I was able to talk through the whole entire content creation process, and to kind of give you a good idea of where or how you could land on your $10,000. Okay. Now, definitely make certain that you go back and look at the other videos. Go ahead and comment, like those videos. Definitely share the channel with your friends or anyone you know who is interested in making 10K using digital products. Again, my name is Janice. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and to like, and I will see you next Thursday.